Centuries ago, scholars traveled across Asia to study here. Institutions like Nalanda University made this region a global center for ancient learning. That academic reputation continued into the 20th century. The establishment of campuses like Patna University in 1917 anchored the state as a modern hub for higher education in post-independence India. But rural classrooms today tell a different story. In many of these same districts, students are now struggling to acquire basic literacy skills. Most families here have few alternatives. They rely on the state to provide a path forward, and when the system underperforms, the opportunity cost for the next generation is steep. It is often assumed that educational failure in rural areas is a result of missing resources, that students lack school buildings, teachers, or daily access. The data suggests a different bottleneck. The state runs an effective physical delivery network. Nearly 93% of rural schools successfully provide daily midday meals to their students. In Bihar, 80% of rural children enroll in government schools, well above the national average. But learning outcomes drop sharply. Only 41% of Class 5 students can read a Class 2 textbook. Consequently, private tuition reliance is 2.5 times the national average. The state has proven it can build schools and deliver nutrition. The breakdown is happening internally, within the mechanics of how knowledge is managed and measured. To find the root of that breakdown, we must look past physical classrooms and examine the administration, a structure defined by layers of shifting bureaucracy. A 2026 report by the Center for Civil Society investigated this issue. They found that the core problem is not a lack of funding, but a failure in the state's structural design. The entire system is anchored to the decades-old Bihar Education Code. As the population grew, administrators issued hundreds of reactive executive orders. These new rules were layered over the original code, creating overlapping jurisdictions and administrative confusion. By attempting to solve isolated problems with ad hoc rules, the state engineered a framework so complex that efficient oversight became difficult to maintain. This high-level complexity filters directly down to the local schools, dictating how educators spend their time on the ground. In practice, this means teachers in crowded classrooms are often distracted from their students by the paperwork demanded by multiple competing departments. This creates a culture of input compliance. Headmasters must spend their hours filling out infrastructure checklists to prove they have desks and water, rather than monitoring whether their students can read. When an administrative system becomes this tangled, it begins to measure what is easy to count, often at the expense of what is actually being taught. Improving these outcomes requires a change in how the system is governed, aligning state administration with the principles of the National Education Policy. The primary recommendation from researchers is the creation of an independent body, a State School Standards Authority, or SSSA. This authority acts as a structural filter. It separates high-level regulatory oversight from the daily operations of the schools. By defining clear jurisdictions, this model eliminates contradictory mandates. Headmasters are no longer forced to juggle duplicate compliance tasks from different state offices. Removing this administrative weight is necessary to return a teacher's focus to the minds of their students. In a streamlined system, the priority moves from tracking the building to measuring the literacy and math outcomes of the student. With 80% of rural children already in the classroom, a focus on outcomes allows the state to finally convert high enrollment into skilled human capital. This new approach modernizes the state's educational mechanics, honoring the legacy of learning that once defined this entire region. Building classrooms and delivering meals showed that the state has the capacity to act. Improving education now depends on fixing the invisible rules that govern how those classrooms function.